So I have the pleasure of sitting with Beau from Blessthefall, who are here in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the intersection on a stop of their tour. I gotta say, it looks like the tour has been doing pretty well so far. I mean, either sold out or mostly sold out. How is that, I feel like these kind of package tours are interesting because, like, you took out a rather younger band in Palisades, and, you know, you got Slaves who are kind of going through some changes and so forth, and kind of some uncertainty there. And then, you know, you guys who are about a year into your last record. So, I mean, it's kind of like a little uneven territory there. So, like, how is it knowing that, you know, the fans are coming out in droves and supporting this package?
It's good, man. It's good. And I'll be the first to say that there's definitely some shows that are better than others. Like, just because we're playing these, like, very offshoot market cities.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure out if this is a BC market tool.
I'd say what is this? I love the town. I love, like, it's awesome to go walk around. We've just went to Founders down the road, went to the coffee shop. But it's probably more of a C-ish market especially for them like us. You know, it's kind of a college town vibe, I guess. Right? Is that what that's the kind of vibe I'm getting?
No, honestly, it's really not. It's more of I would say, it's funny, I've been going on record as saying, as I feel like with now this, where we're at right now in the intersection, being more like the Crowfoot out in Pontiac, being like a multi-venue venue, and us being, you know, now we have another Live Nation venue in 20 Monroe, and we have some other mid-level venues that kind of fill a lot of different spaces. I feel like we're actually able to compete with a lot of B markets, and maybe a strong, like, A- market, if that was such a thing.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the hard part is we're between Chicago and Detroit, which is definitely two A markets. Yeah. So, you know, just where do we lie is
of course
indicative of what we are.
Yeah.
But, I think we're a good spot for music, but it's more like, I think, a young professionals kind of town.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, but no, it's a great town, and, you know, like I said, most of the shows are great, but you got those little towns like Springfield, Missouri, who, you know, I don't know, they're just maybe not hotbeds for our type of music, but it's been fun. All the bands are great.
So kind of want to talk a little bit about the single you dropped with, is it Kayzo? Is that how you pronounce it?
Kayzo, yeah.
Okay. I thought that was kind of an interesting single in the fact that, you know, it kind of comes in between, you know, something I've been really focusing on and hammering is, you know, are we in an EP singles world now in the music industry, or do fans really clamor for the full-length experience? And so seeing you kind of drop this single, and it's kind of, I don't know if a little left of center would be kind of the term I want to use.
Definitely.
But I mean, like, I feel like you guys have kind of sprinkled in some of the vibes of this song already throughout your discography. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, does doing something like this kind of entice you to kind of be like, well, if our fans kind of feel this, maybe we can kind of push what Blessthefall is in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, you know what? Just being a band for as long as we have, you know, every record I think is pretty eclectic, so to speak. Like, you know, there's Witness and one. So our biggest songs are like Hollow Bodies and Hey Baby. So if you played them back to back, just a regular average Joe would have no clue, would not think that this is the same exact band, right? They probably kind of. So I think that we've gotten pretty lucky in that our fan base can expect that from us, can expect a left to center, you know, type vibe where you know, we put out, you know, some songs that can sound like pop songs because that's what we like. Like, that's not what we're not doing it to be popular, write something that's popular at the moment. Like, we're writing, this is what we feel like. My favorite band's Blink-182 and Killswitch Engage and the Mars Volta and, you know what I'm saying, Minor Threat. Like, these are all my influences. So I like, I think the fans were like, damn, this is rad. And we actually had Big Chocolate was his name, and he remixed a song off. It was the Promise Ones, and that was a very similar situation to this. He wasn't as big as Kayzo was. Kayzo is doing great. He's doing amazing, and he's awesome. I love that he's a kid from the scene. He's like a Warped Tour kid, essentially, right? Like, I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but
I think
loves
that's a far-reaching term, because like Warped Tour, if you were a little bit older than me, I'm in my mid-30s, so it's like if Warped Tour, if you were like 40-something, was, you know, like Rancid and, you know, like, you know,
NoFX.
Yeah, exactly. It's a more traditional punk thing.
Sure.
But if you're coming up in the last 5 to 10 years, Warped Tour could be anything from an indie acoustic act to, I don't think I'm allowed to say this band anymore because they're canceled, but like a Blood on the Dance Floor or things like that, which kind of branch into like EDM,
it got
and so
kind
forth.
of convoluted. There's definitely like a lot of gray area in the Warped Tour world. But yeah, so I guess what I mean, he's from the metalcore pop punk world, right? And it's awesome. Like, I love what he's doing. I love that he's taking it and he's playing our songs at Coachella, which those people that go there will never have probably ever heard of Blessthefall or like EDC. And, you know, people send us videos like, dude, like, I'm at the show, your song's playing. I'm like, that's sick, you know? So I like the fact that he is from sort of this world, loves it, and is taking it to this whole other world that has, you know what I mean, and combining the two. Yeah. And so what we had was, Before the Storm, we didn't have it titled. It was actually a song that didn't make hard feelings. Okay. So we took the song, and Kayzo reached out, was like, you guys want to work together? I'm like, dude, yeah, I love what you're doing. I love what he did with Spencer and Aaron from Under Oath. And I was like, dude, let's do something. We have this song that we didn't put on the record. Like, I don't know what we're going to do with it. Like, we were maybe going to drop it as like a random single at some point. What do you think? And he really loved it. So he just fucking did his thing with it. And we were stoked, and he gave it life, you know? So I think that's pretty cool. You know, like, going back to what you asked earlier about, are we in a singles type of world right now? I don't know if our band necessarily is, because I feel like our fans want to hear a record. Okay. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I wouldn't mind trying to do it again. Like, I wouldn't mind trying to drop a single and kind of see how it goes. But our fans, I feel like we put our heart and soul into a whole body of work. And you got to listen to, like, the first song to the last song, right. And that's what we like, kill ourselves. Like, we shouldn't, because people can just download our shit for free now. But we literally, like, dissect our album, like, when we're putting the songs in order of, like, what are people going to, you know, what's the roller coaster we're going to take them on? How are we going to end this a certain way? So if you notice, every song that we start a record with is very big. It's like anthemic, yeah. And, you know, and goes, and it kind of evens out. And then we have this big sort of dramatic ending, right? Like Welcome Home and Stay Still and things like that. I can't even think of all of our songs that we have right now. But yeah, so we love the album format. That being said, I wouldn't mind trying to drop another random song at some point and just seeing what happens. Yeah, experiment.
It's kind of interesting. So you don't know this, but like my headspace has been very immersed in the episode we dropped earlier today with Corey Brandon from Norma Jean. And so in the interview, we were talking about, you know, Corey made the comment about, you know, trying to appease longtime fans of the band, even though obviously no one in the band is an original member at this point and so forth. And, you know, it kind of got me thinking as I was preparing for this interview and thinking about the fact that, you know, you've been in this band longer than any other vocalist at this point, but you're still deemed the new guy sometimes, which, you know, it kind of makes me wonder, do you kind of have the same mentality maybe as like Corey does, like where it's like we want to do stuff that appeases the fans that have been around since like day one. However, we also want to take the band into where we're continuing to take it and push the boundaries of what Blessthefall is. Yeah, no, definitely. I think pushing the boundaries is important to just grow, and so you don't feel like you're writing the same shit over and over. But Blessthefall has a sound that sort of, you know, there's a certain sound that we had that made us who we are, and I think that we're never gonna like throw that away completely. We're never gonna go like, well, now we sound like the 1975, you know, like it's never gonna be that. But at the same time, like I said, we have tons of different influences and inspirations and music that we like. So you will always hear that in our albums. You always hear our inspirations. You know, we have a song called like Bone Screw. It just sounds like a pop punk song. Like, yeah. Just straight up, like, fast pop punk song. And that's because that's what we like as well. Whether it's left, and I think that at this point, like, our fans can be, like, stoked when we try, things that are new, like Hard Feelings. Definitely had a sound, right? Like, we found, like, Hollow Bodies had a sound, yeah. Right? And so I think that you find that sound and then you just kind of stick with it, no matter what it is. And I know, I feel like the response for Hard Feelings has been really cool, like seeing the impact, because I know like I kind of like just like it's called Hard Feelings, so I poured a lot of my heart into like those lyrics, which I do on every record, but right. This one especially because we were going through changes, and I don't know, I feel like I want to relate to everyone out there because I know everyone's going through
something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was just like I said. I was really immersed in this thing, and as I kept listening to Corey kind of explain that, I was like, Beau's kind of in that same situation, and so I was like, maybe there's a parallel there that would be interesting to kind of tap into. Kind of completely shifting gears. This has been something that's been way more personal of a discovery for me to ask people when I'm interviewing them. I recently talked to Maddie Mullins and kind of hit on this. So you don't know this, but very recently I quit my 9-to-5 to focus on doing this podcast thing.
Nice. And
kind of doing a side hustle that will allow me to pay my bills and so forth.
Sure.
The thing I don't think anyone really ever tells you when you decide to go all in on something is literally how all in it is and encompasses all of your life. Like, if I'm not doing this, then I'm doing trying to make money. But the flip side of that is, like, I'm married, and I've been married for a little while. I've been with my wife for almost a decade total. And so, like, I've been trying to find that nice middle ground where it's like I can be goal-oriented and driven in a career, hopefully, while also supporting hers and so forth. But, like, I look at, you and your wife, and you guys are, between the two of you, constantly touring. And you have a kid, which we don't have a kid. We have a dog, and sometimes I know people don't like having children compared to animals.
No,
but I will say at times it is a bit the same where you're like, I want to pick up and go to Detroit. Oh, who's going to watch the... Yeah. Okay, I got to figure that out.
There's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels.
So, I mean, kind of wanted to pose the question to you. How do you find that nice balance between being able to work both of your careers independently while also finding the balance of home life?
Yeah, honestly, man, it's been a fucking circus trying to balance family with a career and everything else. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has been very good to us, and we've been able to have family help us out and not have to have left her alone, with family. She's not alone. She's with her cousins and everything else, and we've been lucky enough to have that support system. And we just had 6 months off, so I was like, this is fucking great. Like, I'm doing a lot more videography. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing like brand content, or I did a little music video for Lights as well. Yep. And that was like my first kind of like, all right, I'm gonna go rent some like lighting, and we're gonna like have a storyboard and like try to make this thing cool. And I did all like the animation for it and stuff like that. So that's sort of my way of like, okay, maybe we can come off the road a little bit. We don't have to be on the road the way we were before. And as my daughter gets older, you start realizing you're gone a lot more, right? Like, I've been FaceTiming her. She's never once been like, when are you coming home? Or I miss you, or whatever. Until this tour where she's like, miss you, Dad. I wish you were coming home. And I'm like, oh God, okay, this is crazy. Like, now it's getting real. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of like, okay, let's slow down the touring. We don't have to do it the way we used to, right? Where we were like, man, we were gone all the time. I was home for like a couple weeks at a time. Yeah. And I think that if we all sort of find that balance, I think it's another thing, side note, tangent, a matter of just being aware of opportunities, right? A lot of people kind of like, well, I'm waiting for that like one thing and whatever else, but you just have to always constantly just be aware of opportunities. Take advantage. Don't be afraid to ask for things. Don't be afraid to just, pour your heart and your life into something that you really do love and that you want to work out, like, like podcasting or whatever, like, I tried it for a little bit. I tried to have my own podcast. I realized how hard it was. I realized that how hard it was to get sponsors, even with someone like myself who has a following. And I was able to get some big names, on my podcast. And I think did like 6 episodes or whatever. But I just realized how hard it was. I'm like, okay, cool. That was a little creative venture. You know what I mean? But had I been maybe more, inspired to do it, I would have gone all in. So I think just, I don't know, always be aware of like, there's tons of opportunities out there, and you just have to be like cognizant, and just take those moments when they come. I think some people just miss out on those because they're not thinking about it, they're not paying attention. You know what I mean? They're like focused on something else. It's like there's tons of opportunities. So, but yeah, you just gotta. I don't know. We just made it work, man. We just made it work, and here we are. So
another weird facet. It's not weird, actually. It's the wrong adjective. Interesting facet of at least your relationship with your wife, and something I've been trying to find parallels in. My my wife works in the pharmaceutical industry and switched jobs recently and has a decades-long career at this point. And I'm trying to be supportive in her career, while also like this thing is starting to kind of pick up, and I know she's supportive of what I'm doing. But I was kind of thinking, looking at your guys' relationship, your wife and yours relationship, and kind of thinking about, is it, trying to be polite in this, is it hard sometimes to be so focused on what you're doing and trying to make that thing succeed, but also being supportive of your spouse and not seemingly belittling what they're accomplishing?
Totally. No, I'm definitely aware of that. It's funny you mentioned that, just because at one point I would say like, okay, Blessthefall's career, at least in the United States, our shows were bigger than maybe her shows.
Right.
People were selling more records, whatever the case is. And she was like trying to like really break, and do well in the States. And she does amazing in Canada. Now she does well in both. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I feel like things have and I was always like, I'm always cognizant of it. I'm always like trying to be just aware of it. Like, just like support no matter what she's doing. If she's like, oh yeah, today's show sucked and blah blah blah. I'm like, hey, don't worry. We played a fucking bar to like 100 people, and we've been a band for like 10 years, so don't worry about it. Like it's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's definitely a bit of just being courteous, like general, just being courteous about, I don't brag about anything that we do. I'm constantly just being supportive of, she's doing her art, she's doing her, her music, and she's got a lot of passions, you know what I mean? She's got a lot of passions, and yeah, the best thing is just to kind of like, just uplift no matter what, right?
Right.
So, I think that it's like also humbling at the same time, where, I've seen what sort of the size that Blessthefall was at one point, and, you kind of start playing these like smaller shows, and that's just the way the scene works. Like,
right.
Things are going up and down, always, right? We're not like, we were never like this massive band, but we were also never like nobodies, It's like, you have this like even-tempered attitude towards everything, and always remain humble, and always remember that it could be gone tomorrow. Right. And I think that's sort of what's driven us and kept us around, and that's kind of what I tell her too at the same time. I'm like, hey man, like, work as hard as you want, everything else, and be stoked, but because it could be gone tomorrow. Like, people could just all of a sudden not care anymore. It's just the reality of it. So,
is that kind of scary, knowing that both of you are in an industry where that could happen?
Not really. I feel like I'm just that kind of person who, I have lots of interests. I have a clothing line. I have my videography that I'm doing now. I'm interested in directing and all that other stuff, and I know that's very like, I'm at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe not the very bottom, maybe like right above the very bottom of the totem pole when it comes to that. But I think it's just a matter of like, I don't know. That's how I've grown up my whole life, is like I've had shitty jobs, and I've like always thought about what's the next move? What's the next move? Like, I could probably get fired. What am I going to do next? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what could happen next? I always thought about that with Blessthefall too. I'm like, dude, people could stop listening, and metalcore or whatever this genre is, people could just give up on it, and like, what's the next move? What's the next? I don't know. So I'm not worried about it. Yeah, if it goes, it goes. But if not, we love our fans and we love playing for them, and then hopefully we can do it for a few more years.
What does, kind of in wrapping up, what does the rest of this year hold for you, and how close are we to a new record at this point?
Right now, close to a new record? Not close. Nope. But we're going in to write with Tyler Smith, who produced and recorded our last album, after this, just to kind of like get the juices going and see, what's up. And like I said, the touring's slowing down heavily. Like, we're not doing it the way we used to. Part of it being that the market is oversaturated. When you oversaturate yourself, your market values drops, right? Yep. So people think you're going to come back to their city 4 times because we played Chicago 3 times this year. It's like, no, like, that's not the way it works. We don't need to do that anymore. So now it's going to slow down, and so hopefully those people in those cities take advantage when we actually come through. Like, shit, I might not see Blessthefall next year. But we have a pretty cool idea for a tour lined up in the fall.
Okay.
Right, so we're gonna take the whole summer off and maybe write a little bit. And I'm just gonna, Eric's got, like, we all kind of have other interests and passions, and we're gonna just kind of keep doing those. And if there's a demand for Blessthefall to write a record immediately, we'll see. Obviously you're talking about it, so that's.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those
crazy
things. Like I said, like I focus on EPs, full lengths, and the
Sure.
fickle nature of the industry as a whole now.
Sure.
So I mean, to me, it's like, you drop a single, even though it was a B-side on your record that didn't even make the record,
Yeah.
but people are seemingly liking it.
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's
hitting
doing
in a
great.
different avenue. So at that point, it's just kind of like, okay, like maybe we just at least get going. So like if the demand is there, then we kind of got the ball rolling. If not, then we're not rushing into anything either. So I just
Yeah.
typically like to ask, just for the sake
Totally,
of
yeah.
kind of getting more into the mindset of like, you're a little, I think you're about a year into this record cycle at this
Yeah,
point.
oh,
So
yeah.
like what does it still have legs? Is it time to start thinking about another
Yeah.
record? Like what, I just like talking more about the industry side of things.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. No, it's in the past it's been like every 2 years put a record out, every 2 years, and now it seems like, man, someone 3 months after Hard Feelings came out was like, man, I still love your album. I'm like, fuck, I hope. Like, it came out 3 months ago. Like, dude, come on. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of the day and age we're living in, and
I think half of that, though, is the fact that now the industry has shifted into when you release a record, you do the promotional single, you do the first single, and then, 2 months out, a month out, you drop 2 more singles, maybe
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
So if you have an 11, 12-song record, you've already heard 5.
Yeah.
And you're already like, oh, that thing already came out a while ago. And you're like, no, it doesn't come out for another month.
Yeah.
Like, still get excited that you have another half to listen to. So I feel like that's kind of the climate we're in, is where we're just being oversaturated with content, even when it comes to a rollout material. Instead of being like, when I was a kid, it's like, here's your one song, hope that's enough for you for 6 months.
Till the album comes out.
out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's different, man. I think that we're lucky enough that our fans still buy albums, and like our last record did pretty well, like first week numbers, whatever. Well, I was like, thought it was going to be like half of what it was. I was like, oh shit, like, just because that's how it is now. Everyone's downloaded and everything else. So we're lucky that our fans are diehard and are supportive, and they understand how much we've put into this, right? So we'll see what happens. And like I said, I wouldn't mind putting on a random single. I think it'd be fun. It's a nice surprise.
Lastly, where can everyone find you or the band?
At Blessthefall, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blessthefallmusic.com for our tour dates. And come hit us up. Tag us in all your stuff, because we search our tags because we're weird.
I've been noticing a lot of bands doing that lately.
We search all our tags, so we see all the shit talking when people don't add us and just kind of say our name. But no, we love seeing all that stuff that's out there, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and looking forward to the show tonight.
Of course, man. Thanks.